Hello and a very warm welcome back to the channel, and with it being Halloween just around the corner, I did want to continue the scary theme and base this video on something that I consider to be genuinely scary. And let's be honest, what is more genuinely scary in real life than having to pay taxes? So on that note, I thought we'd do a video on CGT, or capital gains tax, and take a little look at how it may affect you, because you might be surprised to find out how little it actually will affect you. Now, you may see in front of me that I do have a little array of silver spread out. Now, every single piece of silver I have in front of me has one thing in common, and that thing is that it is not capital gains tax exempt. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a quick look at what exactly capital gains tax is. Now, capital gains tax, or CGT for short, and I will continue to call it CGT just to make things a little easier, is a tax that you pay on any income you receive just by owning an item. Now, that can cover up pretty much all household possessions except for your car. It covers property not including your main place of residence, unless your residence is deemed to be excessively large. Now, I don't know who gets to decide what is an excessively large residence and what is not, but yes, no, you may pay capital gains tax on the sale of your main home if it is considered to be a very large home. You also pay CGT on any stocks or shares you may own, except for those that are kept in either an ISA or individual savings account, or a PEP, which is a personal equity plan. Now, one thing you don't pay capital gains tax on is legal tender, which does mean anything like this coin I have here, which is, as you can see, a Merlin coin from the second Myths and Legends range. Now, this would be CGT exempt purely because it does have a denomination of £2, as you can see right there. Now, that means, although it has a much higher intrinsic value in its silver content, it does have an actual legal tender value of £2. So this makes silver bullion like this type here capital gains tax exempt, and you wouldn't have to pay any capital gains tax at all when you came to sell that. Okay, so if that's what CGT is, then how much exactly is it and who does it apply to? Now, there are actually two CGT payment bands, one being 10%, and that only applies to people that are below the annual personal taxable allowance limit, which is somewhere around £12,500. So that doesn't really apply to many people, so we're going to ignore that. So to most people, CGT is calculated at 20%. Now, that is 20%, as I say, on the capital gains. So you pay 20% of any profit that you would make above and beyond the CGT allowance, which is, as of now, at 2023, £6,000. Okay. Now, that being the case, it may not actually be something that you need to worry about too much, and I'll give you an example for why, but to enable me to do so, I will need the help of Atkinson. So let me just grab it right here like that. Okay, so now we're on Atkinson's website. I've chosen Atkinson because we all know Atkinson's is a great bullion dealer that has some really good quality products at really reasonable prices as well. But if we could take a quick look over at the gold, and we go across to 1 kilogram gold bars, which is the largest size gold bar that they sell, and we take a quick look on there, we can see that a gold bar will set you back somewhere roughly in the region of £53,500. Now, I'm going to round it down just to make it a little easier for everybody. Okay, so now we've done that, we don't need Atkinson's anymore, so I'm just going to pop it across there. There we go, excellent. Okay, so looking at that, as I say, for a 1 kilogram gold bar, which is a large amount of gold, I mean, if your first name doesn't begin with Cobra and your last name doesn't begin with Stacker, the chances are you probably don't own a kilo of gold. Now, you might well do, but the chances are, most people out there, if you go by the numbers, the chances are that you do not own a 1 kilogram gold bar. But let's say, for argument's sake, you came into £53,500 and you wanted to look into investing it into gold. So you went out and you bought yourself a 1 kilogram metal or gold bar direct from Atkinson's. Okay, so you hold on to that gold for a couple of years and you see a little bit of a bull rush in the price of gold. And the price of gold actually goes up to the point where you see a 10% on your actual investment value, meaning that your 1 kilogram gold bar is now worth, on the resale value, £58,850. Okay, so we then go and take our 1 kilogram gold bar, we take it to the bullion dealer. They put down on the counter £58,850. But before they give that to you, they've got to take the CGT out of that amount. And that's 20%, right? So 20% of it, 58,850 is 11,770. So that means we're going to lose £11,770 off of our investment, right? No, wrong, absolutely wrong, because we're not paying CGT on the total amount. Remember, we're only paying CGT on our gains, i.e. our profits. So the actual amount we've made in profit is £5,350. Now that in itself is actually below the 6,000 CGT threshold. Therefore, the amount of CGT we would pay on this entire 1 kilogram gold bar is absolutely zero. So as you can see, to most of us who don't even own a kilogram of gold and would only love to, we're never ever going to pay CGT on gold. You know, we're just not going to own that amount. And just to put that into perspective, if we were looking at silver now, the buyback price of a 1 kilogram silver bar is currently roughly around £600, as you can see on the screen right now. So that means we would have to sell 100 1 kilogram bars before we even start paying capital gains tax. And to put that into further perspective, 100 1 kilogram bars is 3,215 troy ounces. So that is a lot of silver you are going to have to sell before you even start paying capital gains tax. And remember, capital gains tax is only paid on profit, so it's never going to make you lose money. It can only be taken out of money that you are making. So it does mean sometimes in some occasions you may lose a bit of that profit, but I will find in a lot of occasions the amount you can make through the collectability of an item will greatly outweigh the capital gains tax you would pay. And to give you a perfect example of that, that's this bar right here, which you will all know as the Una and the Lion 1 ounce silver bar. Now, with this being a 1 ounce silver bar, this is not capital gains tax exempt. Therefore, if I was to sell enough of these that I was to make more than £6,000 in profit, then I would have to pay 20% of the remaining profit that I make from selling them. Now, despite the fact that I'm not going to be able to find enough Unas to make that kind of money on them, these bars have gone up in value much more than 20%. They are very sought after, very collectible and very difficult to find. So you can see them selling anywhere up to the price of £40 to £45. Now, I'm not saying you're always going to pay for them and you're not ever going to find them cheaper anywhere else, but you will regularly see them selling for that price online. So, as you can see, capital gains tax, when it's broken down, actually isn't all that scary and isn't really something that a lot of us even need to worry about. Now, I don't know if I'm ever going to own enough silver to actually worry about capital gains tax on my sales. That is way below my target of only a few hundred ounces, really. So, yeah, it's not something I worry about whatsoever when I'm buying silver. I literally just look for the pieces that I like, because personally, I think the pieces that I like are pieces that other people are going to like. They're going to become popular. They're going to become more sought after over time. And that's what's maybe going to make them go up in value a little bit more than just a plain old standard Britannia. Now, stacking for weight does have its benefits, and that is something I'm definitely going to be discussing in a future video very soon, so definitely keep an eye out for that. I think it's going to be one I look to bring out next Friday when I look at stacking for weight against stacking for collectability, and just the pros and cons of each method, because definitely each one does have its own merits. But as I say, we'll definitely get into more detail regarding that next Friday. But I hope this has maybe cleared out CGT for a few people out there, because I do know there's been a bit of confusion banding around about exactly how CGT will affect people who stack either gold or silver. So I definitely hope that has put things into a little bit more perspective for everybody. With that being the case, I hope you've had fun, and as I say, maybe learned a little thing or two along the way. And if you have, definitely give the video a like, and if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel, because that kind of stuff really does help small channels like me, and it would be appreciated massively. But with that being the case, I think I've probably said enough on the matter right now, so I will leave you with that. Until I see you next, as always, look after each other, keep stacking, take care, and goodbye.